Hello friends, Tanya here with another video featuring several Spellbinders products. I am going to be starting out with the Pinstripe Bracket Card Builder Glimmer plates. I took a 4.5 by 6.5 inch panel and I'm going to make a 5 by 7 card with this. I had a piece of cardstock that I had used my jelly press plate on and did foiling on both ends. Next, I'm taking the Mosaic Bracket Card Builder, which has all of these great dies that create coordinating pieces with this with this Glimmer foil plate. Now I have a piece of craft cardstock that I'm going to die cut a label shape with this edge on both top and bottom. I'm going to do some foiling on that also. I do struggle a little bit with placement, and I could have done this a little easier if I'd glimmered it first, but I was just seeing if I could get this size to fit appropriately. So now that I've die cut both sides of this, I have this great label shape that will fit right in the middle of this panel for my card. And I'm going to take the coordinating Glimmer plate and figure out how to get this on without missing any of the foil. Now this is the hard way. There is another way. So I'm making a hinge method on my cutting mat. This is my first attempt. Just going to slide the foil under, and then I'm going to secure it with the tape. And nope, not going to do that. I switched right away. I'm going to take my foil and line it up with the top of the cardstock, and then I'm going to tape the plate directly to the cardstock over the foil, just like you would any other time. But I'm trying to make sure it's nice and even because I cut this to about where I needed it to be. I do figure out a way to foil the already die cut piece a little later. You're going to see that after I finish this one. So I'm just going to flip it over and do the same thing, and you can see that I have the point of the foiling centered on a line on my grid mat, and I'm making sure to line up the point of the plate on the same line so that we have an evenly foiled bracket label here to go on our card. Then I'm just going to use that die and cut out both the top and the bottom edges so I get that label that I've been trying so hard to create. We'll just run that quickly through the die machine, the platinum, and I have a platinum. I don't have the platinum 6. I had practically ruined one of my favorite dies using my smaller machine. It was a Big Shot, which is the same size as a platinum 6. And after that, I decided I needed the bigger die machine, and I don't regret it. I use it all the time. The sizes that I use pretty much are the largest machine and the mini machine, the little sidekick that I can use on my desk. Here is how I figured out how to glimmer foil the cardstock that I'd already die cut. I taped it to a piece of copy paper with some washi tape, and now I can do that hinge method without my base moving and being able to keep the tape exactly where I put it. So I'm just going to line that up with my plate, tape it down, and run it through the machine. And it's perfect. I wasn't sure if I was going to have issues with overfoiling or warping of the paper where the tape behind it is. None of that. Well, I did have a little overfoiling, but I don't think that had anything to do with the method I'm using here. I think it just happened. However, I can quickly erase that with an eraser. You could use a sand eraser. I can't use the sand eraser because it has latex in it and I'm allergic, but where there's a will, there's a way. So here we have our die cut, pre-die cut piece of cardstock, perfectly foiled, and I will just erase that little bit of overfoiling. I was super happy that I found this method because it will make my life easier. I did take a piece of white cardstock and also die cut it with the same bracket dies. And now I'm going to take the June 2021 Glimmer of the Month die plate set called Sweet and Snarky Birthday Wishes. I wanted this big, bold birthday glimmer, which has a coordinating die, and it has some sub-sentiments. Some of them are sweet, some of them are snarky. And I chose a sweet one for this particular card. I'm aiming for a gender neutral or masculine card here, and I am using, I think this is copper foil. I had Glimmer hot foiled all of those stripes with Aura, and then I used gold to do the bracket foiling. Now we're going to die cut our sentiment, both the panel and, the little banner and the large sentiment. They both have coordinating dies in that set, and we'll just run those through the die cutting machine. I do add another layer or two of cardstock behind both of those to help them stand up a little better on our card. They need to have a little more impact. It's really easy to die cut a couple more layers of the same die and then just use your glue to adhere them together, and you get kind of a chipboard like weight for your sentiments. It really helps them stand out. I did use some coaster blanks on the back of this panel that is my background. Again, cut down to 4.5 by 6.5 inches to go on this 5x7 card that I use a heavyweight white cardstock on. I did use some scraps of cardstock behind this layer of bracket. I didn't use coaster blank. I just wanted a little bit of extra. Same with this panel, just another piece of, another couple scraps of cardstock for a little bit of height without a lot of height. I've stopped using foam dimensionals almost entirely. I have quite a stash of them though, but I prefer a little more control in the amount of dimension I get on my projects. Now we're going to directly adhere the sentiment to that panel and take the sub-sentiment and get that centered on our card also. I'm using the grid lines to help me make sure I'm getting my sentiments straight on the front of the card. That is card number 1. We're making 3 cards today, and I just keep adding supplies. We're going to use the Mosaic bracket and the Pinstripe bracket card builders again, and I had actually taken more of the cardstock and glimmered those pinstripes on the back. Then I took some specialty cardstock from Tonic and I adhered it to some white cardstock to give it a little extra heft because it's cotton paper, so it's pretty lightweight. And then I used the bracket and the coordinating die for the oh golly, what would you call that? The mosaic, that fine detail texture building. And I die cut that, and you can see I've got 3 different pieces I can use here, 3 different layers, and I'm going to take a piece of white cardstock and again foil this bracket die in copper, and we're going to use that on our second card. The extra detail stuff there, the specialty cardstock, I'm going to use on a third card, except for that one pretty little fallout between the bracket edge and the mosaic textured detail die. now I have a spot for a sentiment. So we're going to take this fallout piece that I was initially going to throw away, but it turned out so beautiful. I really like how that looks like it looks like it's specifically created to be a decorative element. So we're going to add that below our white cardstock with the glimmering, and we're going to adhere, I think I can talk. We're going to adhere that to the pinstripe foiling on this A2 sized card panel. Just going to line that center up with one of the pinstripes to help keep that nicely centered on the card. Using my Barely Art Precision Glue, I wondered if this was going to cause some problem with the different dimensions, but it didn't. After I have this nicely adhered, I take it to my guillotine trimmer and trim it down to about 4 by 5 1/4 inches, maybe a little smaller to keep it all centered. Next, I'm going to take the small die of the month from September 2021, the Layered Mix and Match Sentiments, and I'm going to die cut the detail part of the sentiment from this Cosmic Copper Pearlescent cardstock. I'm telling you, I have all of this specialty paper. I am going to use the heck out of it. And then I'm taking the background and I'm going to die cut that from the same cardstock that I did the glimmering for the base panel, the one that has the pinstripes on it. I had some scraps from that. Just going to use the Barely Art Precision Glue, which really is perfect for all of these fine detail sentiments and all of our beautiful die cutting images that we couldn't really adhere before. That was such a struggle. I am so glad we have these fine detail glues now. It makes my crafting life so much easier. There's so many beautiful dies that you want to use, and you need to have a good way to adhere them. So I am adding these to the background or the shadow panel, and I lay them on the card front. And here's my crafty process. I don't always know where things are going. I have a plan, but it's loose. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to line those up, and I've decided I'm going to offset them a little bit so they fill the entire width of the card. And then I take some of the same Cosmic Copper pearlescent paper and I create a panel, which I did die cut the center out because I didn't need that part of it. You're not going to see it. I don't want to waste it. And I'm going to adhere this to an A2 size card base of white cardstock. Now in retrospect, I maybe should have used a light peachy color or a rust color or even a craft color. As I'm laying these sentiment pieces on the front, it just doesn't look bold enough. So I go back to my stash and I find some mirror cardstock. I believe this is Rustic Dark, another tonic mirror card, and I'm going to offset this on the already die cut and layered sentiment to add a little extra pizzazz here to the front. I love how that looks. Yana does this all the time where she offsets the sentiment die cut pieces so that you get a little bit of shimmeriness showing behind behind the letters and creates this beautiful offset shadow effect. And it really does make a difference on how well this shows up on our card base. Now, I was trying to not keep adding more and more different supplies and more colors to the background, but I really think this card could have benefited from some leaves in green or more rustic or red, something to add a little extra pop to that top, or maybe some stamping, tone-on-tone stamping in white satin pearl, just some little bit of texture to add a little interest to that white panel on the top. What do you think? Am I overdoing it? Underdoing it? What do you think? So on to card number 3. I'm taking this very detailed panel that I've already die cut from that specialty paper in a dark rusty color, And I'm showing you how I applied the glue. You don't have to put the glue everywhere on this panel. I try to get the edges and then hit the connecting or intersecting points and then adhere that to this panel that is 4.25 by 4.25 by 5.5 inches. And I will trim this down a little bit to make it fit on my card front. But this is the size we're going to start with. So then I have the coordinatingly bracket die cut that will fit right into this detailed panel. It is magical. The way they created this die set is just so easy to use. Get that stuck down, and I didn't have white cardstock behind all of this, but we're actually adding another layer. So this time I had cut the bracket die from the pinstripe panel. I had 2 of the A2 size pinstripe panels, and I used one for the second card, and now I'm using this one. I'm adhering this to a craft colored A2 card base, and I have this Cactus Dahlia from the Susan's Garden set or collection. And I'm sorry, I didn't actually film this. I really was just playing with my dies, wanting to get a feel for how they work, and so I did not tape that particular episode. All of these are from that same die set, the Cactus Dahlia and Ornamental Garden Pottery die set is what it's called. These are the dahlia leaves that I'm adding, and you can see that it adds quite a lot of dimension. I had actually sprayed all of the cardstock that I used for the flower part with some of the carved pumpkin, I think it's called, pumpkin jack-o'-lantern, that's what it's called, jack-o'-lantern distress mica spray stain. And then I am using some of the Winterberry and Mistletoe greenery to add another contrasting color. I really love how that adds some definition and more pop to this flower. I took the larger of the 2, and this happens to be the Winterberry of the 2 versus the Mistletoe. This is the Winterberry, which looks very much like holly. And I'm just using the 2 pieces that come with that. I thought about using the smaller flower from the Cactus Dahlia set, but decided that 1 was enough. Now I'm just adding a banner from the Glimmer of the Month September 2021 kit called Glimmering Build a Banner. And these were all just in my stash of already created card elements. Sometimes that helps you throw together a beautiful card that looks like you planned it that way. Here is a quick recap of all of the cards I created in this video. Let me know which one you enjoyed the most. Tell me what you'd like to see me do more of. If you are interested in any of the products that I used today, they are listed in the description box below. And I would love it if you gave me a thumbs up. If you aren't subscribed to this channel, now would be a great time. Until next time, bye-bye.